Welcome to Starz Recapped, where we uncover the darkest secrets hidden behind the scariest films ever made. Today, we dive into the terrifying world of the Indonesian supernatural horror Child of Kuntilanak, a story where ancient legends step out of folklore and take form in the real world. What begins as a normal day for a group of children soon twists into a nightmare when they accidentally summon a vengeful spirit, the infamous Kuntilanak, a ghost feared across generations. But this time, the terror is different. Because the haunting is not just about a ghost, it's about a child connected to the evil, holding secrets that could either save everyone or unleash an unstoppable curse. Prepare yourself, turn off the lights, and stay close. Because once the Kuntilanak marks you, there is no escape. This is Child of Kuntilanak, explained by Starz Recapped. The film opens with chaos already unfolding. A furious crowd storms toward Jaro's home, their rage boiling over. A few villagers desperately try to stop them, but the mob is unstoppable. Anyone who steps in their way is violently taken down. Inside the house, Jaro's wife Wati is in labor, struggling to deliver her baby. A helper named Amina assists her, and soon the first child is born. But before they can even celebrate, Wati begins screaming in pain once more. Amina quickly realizes the unthinkable. She's carrying twins. For a brief moment, hope fills the room. However, that moment fades quickly. The angry horde has already surrounded the house. Jaro peeks outside and sees them preparing to burn everything to the ground. Their leader orders silence and demands that Jaro come out. Jaro begs Amina to protect the newborns at any cost. The mob begins setting the house ablaze. Jaro steps outside, trying to confront them, but the crowd immediately pounces, beating him and eventually slashing his throat. As Jaro collapses, their leader calmly walks inside the burning home. He coldly tells Wati to suffer for her sins. Confused and terrified, she begs to know what she has done, but he simply turns away without a word and leaves. Amina, clutching one of the babies, escapes through the chaos. From a distance, she watches helplessly as flames consume the house, with Wati's heartbreaking screams filling the night air. And with that horrifying scene, the story begins. Many years pass, and the story shifts to a quiet boarding school. We meet Aziza, who is excitedly packing her bags, preparing to go home for the holiday break. Her friend Sarah, however, doesn't have a family to return to, which means she'll be staying behind at the school. That night, as the dorm falls silent, Sarah is suddenly awakened by the sound of a woman weeping somewhere in the room. Curious and uneasy, she follows the sound toward the corner of the dorm. Just as the mysterious figure turns around, Sarah jolts awake, screaming in terror, revealing it was all a nightmare. Aziza hurries over and comforts her, and Sarah explains that she saw a woman clutching a baby, whispering for her to come home. Aziza reassures her it was only a bad dream. The next morning, all the students leave for vacation. After everyone is gone, Mi, one of the school caretakers, approaches Sarah kindly and tells her she's welcome to come by their house anytime for food or rest, and she can help around the place if she wants company. That night, Sarah is alone in the empty dorm when she hears that same eerie voice again, soft but calling her urgently to come home. Frozen with fear, she scans the room. Suddenly, the voice grows louder, and the ghostly woman holding a child appears and lunges at her. Sarah screams, scrambling upward until she's clinging to the top of a pillar like someone possessed. Mi arrives and finds Sarah trembling and whispering repeatedly, "I want to go home. I want to go home." She climbs down like something else is controlling her and suddenly collapses as if the presence leaves her body. The next day, Ki, another caretaker, sits with Sarah and tells her there's something she deserves to know, something they've hidden for years. Ni hands Sarah a folded sheet of paper, but when she opens it, instead of an address, it's only a child's drawing. Confused, Sarah asks what it means. Ki explains that when she was a toddler, Amina brought her to them in the village of Wanawangal, and they later placed her in this school. She has lived her entire life not knowing her real past. Sarah asks if they will let her go search for Amina, and Ki silently nods. With renewed hope, she sets off for Wanawangal village. After reaching the village, Sarah asks a man if he knows where she can find Aziza, the daughter of Hassan, and he asks if she means the girl from the boarding school. When Sarah confirms, he offers her a ride to the house. When Aziza opens the door and sees Sarah standing there, she's completely shocked and overjoyed, hugging her tightly and dragging her inside. Sarah says she'll explain everything soon. It's a long story. Later, while getting food outside, a boy approaches them and asks if Sarah is new around here. Aziza explains she's originally from this village but studies at the boarding school. The boy introduces himself as Majid, an intern working at the community clinic. Soon after, Hassan, Aziza's father, meets Sarah. As they talk, Sarah reveals that Key told her something important. Amina, the woman who brought her to the school, used to live here long ago. She doesn't know if she's still alive, but she's determined to uncover the truth. She asks Aziza if she's willing to help her search, hoping maybe Hassan might know something. Aziza gently asks Sarah if she knows anything about her father, but Sarah quietly admits that all Key ever mentioned was Amina, nothing more. Curious, Aziza steps outside and questions her father, Hassan, asking if he's ever known someone by that name. He shakes his head and says he's never heard of anyone called Amina. Aziza then tells him that Sarah needs a place to stay while she searches for answers, but Hassan immediately objects. He explains that since he lives alone, people in the village might gossip if a young girl suddenly moves into his house. Aziza argues that Sarah can sleep in her room, but Hassan cuts her off firmly, saying no. He insists that if she refuses to explain it to Sarah, he will. Inside, Hassan gently tells Sarah that although he personally doesn't mind her presence, the villagers are extremely judgmental. He explains that many outsiders secretly come here to abort pregnancies from affairs, and if she stays under his roof, rumors will spread quickly. Understanding the complications, Sarah thanks him and tells Aziza that she's here to find Amina, not to create trouble. Aziza apologizes, still confused and unsure what her father meant. As they walk, Sarah asks where the prayer hall is, and Aziza says hardly anyone goes there anymore. It's been abandoned for years. The two of them head over, and inside they find an empty, dusty room desperately needing cleaning. Aziza suggests they tidy it up. Sarah can sweep while she mops, and assures her she'll stay the night. But just as Aziza steps outside, Hassan suddenly appears, demanding she come home immediately. Aziza reluctantly returns to Sarah and tells her she has to leave for now, promising to see her soon. Elsewhere in the village, Idris suddenly freezes in terror when he spots a pale woman floating in the air. His voice trembles as he points toward the apparition, and both he and Cario run screaming as the ghostly figure lunges at them. In a panic, they rush to Hassan, insisting they saw a Kuntilanak. Hassan brushes it off, but when they swear the spirit looked exactly like Wadi, he stops, thinking deeply. He asks if they remember the new girl in town and tells them she is currently staying at the prayer hall. He warns them that if they care about the village, they should keep an eye on her. Meanwhile, Sarah steps outside the prayer hall after hearing eerie cries echoing through the night. The sound pulls her forward, her heartbeat racing. Suddenly, Aziza appears behind her, making her jump. Aziza explains she snuck out and fled home just to stay with her. Sarah tells her she heard something strange, but Aziza insists she'll deal with her father later. That night, Aziza is jolted awake by knocking sounds and a woman whispering in the hallway. When she turns her head, she sees the Kuntilanak standing in the doorway, rushing toward her. Aziza screams, only to wake up gasping. Realizing it was only a nightmare, Sarah asks what happened, and Aziza brushes it off, saying it was just a bad dream. The next morning, they walk through the village market. While talking to a vendor, an elderly woman passes behind them, and Sarah suddenly feels a strange chill. Aziza asks the vendor if she knows any woman named Amina. The vendor says there is only one Amina in the entire village, but she hasn't been seen in many years. Sarah asks who the old woman was, and Aziza explains that her name is Darmi, a village shaman. She adds that many people here rely more on mystical rituals than religion, which is why the prayer hall was eventually abandoned. Sometime later, Darmi is seen sliding a plate of food through a small slot in a locked room. A trembling hand reaches out and snatches it, revealing that someone is being kept hidden inside. Meanwhile, Aziza and Sarah bump into Majid on the road. Aziza asks if she can visit the clinic sometime, and Majid happily agrees. Sarah says they'll stop by later, and Aziza casually asks if he knows anyone named Amina. Majid shakes his head. He's never heard that name before. Aziza explains that Amina is someone related to Sarah, and they've been separated for years. Majid offers to check the clinic records, saying very few patients come through, so it should be easy to search. Later, after finishing work, Linda invites Majid to her house for lunch, but he spots Aziza and Sarah waiting outside. Linda rolls her eyes and mutters sarcastically, then walks away. Once she's gone, Aziza immediately asks if he found anything. Majid says he searched through the clinic data, but there is no record of anyone named Amina. Sarah then asks whether he knows someone named Ami, but before Majid can answer, Hassan arrives, furious, and drags Sarah away with him. Majid drops Sarah back at the abandoned prayer hall. He asks if she's really going to stay there and suggests she should stay at the clinic instead, but Sarah refuses. She doesn't want to cause gossip or misunderstandings. Majid asks what her connection to Amina is, and Sarah shows him the drawing she's been trying to ask everyone about. Elsewhere, Aziza confronts her father, asking why he despises Sarah when she's done nothing wrong. Hassan replies that precisely because no one knows who she really is or where she came from, she's dangerous. He orders Aziza to obey him for once. That night, Majid finishes repairing the old microphone system and begins reciting the call to prayer. His voice echoes through the entire village. Darmi hears it and looks deeply disturbed, especially when it's revealed that she is the one keeping Amina trapped in the locked room. Later, Idris and Cario sneak over to the prayer hall. They toss a stone at the building to scare Sarah, but moments later, eerie rustling comes from the trees. Terrified, Idris bolts, leaving Cario alone. Suddenly, a voice whispers Cario's name. When he turns around, the Kuntilanak appears and violently launches him into the air, slamming him into a tree and killing him instantly. Idris sees the horrifying scene before running for his life. He rushes to Hassan and frantically tells him what happened. The next day, Majid learns that Cario has died and asks how. Linda coldly answers, "The Kuntilanak killed him." Aziza visits Sarah and asks if Majid was the one who recited the call to prayer. Sarah nods and says he's been incredibly kind in helping her search for Amina. Sarah also explains that Linda told her Cario was killed by the Kuntilanak. Aziza says many people were talking about his death on her way back and warns that more tragedy may follow. That night, Linda visits Darmi and confesses she has feelings for Majid. Darmi bitterly replies that ever since Majid arrived, the villagers have started turning against her. She asks Linda if she knows the girl Majid is always seen with, and Linda admits she only knows her name, Sarah. Darmi says she's willing to help, but only if Linda can force Sarah to leave the village. Later, Linda approaches Idris, who can't help complimenting her beauty. She tells him he must help get Sarah out of the village because it is Darmi's command. Idris asks if this is really about Sarah being close to Majid, and Linda admits it's both personal and necessary. Idris agrees to deal with the Kuntilanak girl, but only if Linda stays beside him. Reluctantly, she agrees. Back at Hassan's house, the radio suddenly cuts out, and as he tries to adjust it, the fire in his stove explodes upward. When he turns, the Kuntilanak stands behind him, laughing. Terrified, he runs for his life. At the same time, the Kuntilanak appears before Idris and lifts him off the ground, brutally impaling his head onto a tree branch. The next day, a devastated Linda announces to the villagers that they are no longer safe. She reveals that Idris and Cario have both been murdered and claims Darmi believes the killings are happening because the child of the Kuntilanak is living among them. She points directly at Sarah, accusing her. Sarah asks what she's talking about, but Linda insists she must leave immediately. Aziza steps in, saying Sarah is only searching for her family. Sarah asks why people are blaming her and wonders if she should go back to the boarding school, but Aziza urges her to stay calm. Later that evening, Sarah reads the Quran peacefully inside the prayer hall, unaware that a furious mob is marching toward her. Majid and another man rush to stop them. The man reminds the villagers there is no proof of anything and begs them to stop the madness. Majid takes full responsibility for Sarah's safety, and after a heated standoff, the villagers slowly begin to retreat. Back in the village, Hassan confronts Darmi, convinced that all the recent horrors are connected to Wadi's spirit. He insists that Amina must be eliminated before things get worse. Darmi coldly gives him the order to do it. Hassan heads to the shed where he expects to find Amina, but The place is empty. Meanwhile, Sarah, overwhelmed by fear and confusion, rips apart the piece of paper she was holding and collapses in tears, completely unaware that the Kuntilanak is silently watching her from the shadows. Hassan eventually tracks down Amina and violently grabs her, pressing a machete to her throat. Amina shoves him back, demanding to know why he's doing this. Filled with hatred, Hassan tells her that people like her don't deserve to live. He raises the weapon to strike, when suddenly, a chilling laughter fills the night. The Kuntilanak materializes right before him. Terrified, Hassan asks the spirit what she wants. The entity, Wadi, tells him this is justice for slaughtering her family. She lunges at him and savagely rips the flesh from his face, killing him in the most brutal way imaginable. Next morning, Sarah approaches Majid, asking if he's seen Aziza because she hasn't come to class. Majid quietly tells her that Aziza's father passed away. Sarah attends the funeral to support her friend, but instead of gratitude, Aziza looks her dead in the eyes and calls her the child of the Kuntilanak. That night, Amina is found crying beside a grave, apologizing to Wadi and praying for her soul. Sarah approaches and asks who she is. Amina introduces herself and explains the truth. Sarah's parents trusted Amina to protect her when she was born. She tells Sarah that her mother was adored by many, but Darmi and Hassan harbored deep jealousy and resentment toward her father. Consumed by hatred, they murdered Sarah's parents. Amina reveals that the grave she's kneeling beside is Sarah's mother's resting place. Sarah helps her stand and insists they go inside. But before they can move, Darmi appears behind them, sneaking forward like a predator. In an instant, Wadi's spirit strikes, violently tearing Darmi's jaw apart, ending her life. The next morning, as Sarah prepares to leave, she thanks Amina for finally revealing the truth about her identity. Amina apologizes for not being able to protect her all those years, but says that now her mother's soul can finally rest. Sarah begins her journey back to boarding school, saying that she accepts the fate tied to being the child of the Kuntilanak, but promises she will never forget Amina. However, right before the scene cuts, we see Darmi's hairpin clipped into another woman's hair, and that woman is revealed to be Aziza, hinting that the terror is far from over. And that brings us to the end of today's terrifying journey. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep dive horror recaps like this, don't forget to hit the like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel, Starz Recapped. Your support helps us keep bringing you the best horror explanations and spine-chilling movie stories from around the world. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and keep watching Starz Recapped.